In this video, I'm going to walk through the quick setup script for setting up OpenSquiggly on an Azure VM. Please consult our documentation for additional information and consult your security or network operations team for additional security advice. Okay, I've already created the VM through my Azure portal. I'm going to SSH into my VM. Right. And what I want to do is I want to install this into the /opt directory, which is a good place to put third-party programs. I'm going to install unzip, which I'm going to need to unzip the file that I'm about to get. Okay. And now, because I'm in the opt directory, I need to do a sudo. I'm going to run wget, and I'm going to get from http://opensquiggly.opensquiggly.latest.zip. Right, and we see that got the file. Now I'm going to run that unzip file that I just did, but I'm going to need a sudo on it. Sudo unzip opensquiggly.zip, and I want to unzip that into the directory OpenSquiggly, and I like to use mixed case. You can use lowercase if you want. All right, and now that that's done, I'm going to cd into OpenSquiggly/setup. All right, and from here we're going to do sudo bash Azure setup.sh. And this script is going to walk us through everything that we need to do to get this up and running. All right. So do you want to format and mount a newly attached disk? Yes, I do. When I created the VM, I created the disk at the same time I created the VM. However, that disk still needs to be formatted and mounted. So I'm going to say, yes, I do want to do that. Okay, now we get a list of all the your block devices, and we have to figure out which one is that actual disk, and this can be a little bit tricky. Now, since I created this disk at the same time I created the VM, the disk I'm interested in is SDA. And we can tell, and the best way to tell is the one that has this 1:0:0:0:0. Also, I did create a 32 gigabit disk. And so these are kind of the clues that tell me that it's SDA is what I'm looking for. Now, if I didn't do it in that order and I created the VM and didn't create the disk and then went back after the fact and created the disk as a separate step, then it wouldn't be SDA, it would instead be SDC. But you see, in this case, it's not SDC because SDC already has a partition and amount. All right, anyway, so the point here is that SDA is that data disk that I want to access. All right, and yes, that is the device I want to confirm. Okay, now it created the partition, and now it's asking me for what the partition name is. And so we want to confirm that it's SDA1. Assuming there's only one partition on the disk, the partition name that gets created should be the same name as the device with a 1 after it. All right, so I type in SDA1. Where do you want to mount the partition? I want to put this in /data. All right, and now it gives me one last chance. It says, look this over and does this look right to you? And I look at, I've got /dev/SDA1, and it's 32 gig, which is right, 1% used in /data. I say, yes, that looks right to me. All right. Do you want to permanently mount the new partition by adding it to your FS tab? Yes. Okay. Now what I have to do is I have to look up the /dev SDA1, and I have to get this UUID, and I copy that to the clipboard, and then I paste it in here for the enter the UUID. Right. And now that has added it to the FS tab, and now it's a permanently mounted disk. I won't have to do that anymore. Do you want to install MongoDB? Yes. MongoDB is the database engine that OpenSquiggly uses. We're going to be installing both MongoDB and Elasticsearch on the same VM. So we're going to have a self-contained instance. Everything's going to be on this VM, and everything is going to be stored in that data disk that we just formatted and mounted. All right, so we'll give this a chance to run. All right, enter the path to store the MongoDB data. I want this stored at /data/MongoDB. I want the log stored at /data/log/MongoDB. Okay, do I want to install Elasticsearch? Yes. Let's continue. So this setup script is just walking us through installing everything that we need on here. We're installing Elasticsearch right now. It gets the Elasticsearch running. It sets all of the configuration files and everything for us, so we don't need to go back and modify the configuration files. We want the data stored at /data/Elasticsearch, the log stored at /data/log/Elasticsearch. Okay, it enables the service, gets that running. Okay, now this may take a minute or so. Okay, so be patient with that step. It does take a minute or two for that to complete. Do you want to install the .NET 6.0 runtime? Yes. All right, so it installs that. Do you want to generate a new app settings.json file? Yes, we do. Okay, and we want that to go into op/quickly. Make sure you spell this right. And that's where we unzipped it to. We're looking for the bin directory. Okay, so now that generates the settings file, which has got all the important settings. Now, one of the settings that is generated into that app settings.json file is two important keys that have been randomly generated. They're stored in encrypted main key and encrypted app title in that app settings.json file. Now, those keys are going to be used to encrypt data in the database. And so it's very important that you use the same key with the database. Okay, and so what you want to make sure you do after doing this is you want to go back into your app settings file, and you're going to want to store that somewhere. Maybe have a corporate, safe or something, or in a personal password safe or something like that. You're going to want to store that key, because if you ever lose that key, then the database, the MongoDB database that corresponds to that key, won't be able to read any of the data on it. Right, so it's very important that you save that key. It's so important that we make you actually confirm that you're going to do that by saying, yes, I will make a backup. Okay. Do you want to install the Open Squiggly web service? Yes. And again, we type in where the bin file is, /op open squiggly bin, and the default VM user. This was specified when we in our Azure portal when we created the VM. This is the default user called Azure user. We enter that in. Okay, and boom, it created that. It got everything started. If I do sudo status, sudo system control status open squiggly, we see that it's running. Great, right? You can also, just for fun, go and check our mongod status. All right, that looks good. It says active running, and Elasticsearch should also be running. Okay, so at this point, you can exit the VM. All right, and now you should be able to, from a web browser outside of your VM, hit the public IP address and be able to log in. I'll cover that in the next video.